All right, good morning and welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live edition of your favorite sports updates channel on your favorite football updates channel. That's at Football Tribe UG. So thank you so much to our new community members. Thank you so much to every single one of you that has subscribed to the channel in recent times. Thank you to our usual suspects, the semi-regular suspects, the irregular suspects, and the random suspects. Thank you so much to every single one of you that does watch this channel. Thank you so much for the love and support. It's been really, really much appreciated over the last couple of weeks or so. Special shout outs to people like Ahmed Septa, people like Kayode Ogudeji are from Nigeria, a national fan, and all the rest, the regulars on this channel. It's really, really been a pleasure having you guys around. Thank you so much for the love and support. People like Evers Edits from India. Thank you so much, people like Peter Parker, Pressing Kosi, Safa Ali. I know we've not seen you quite in just a bit on the channel, but we still do appreciate you. And we would really, really, really love to see you once again. I hope whatever it is that you're pursuing does work out well for you going forward. But thank you so much for being for being valuable members of the community. To every single one of you that has visited the channel, went under our video section and watched our latest content regarding Isaac, regarding Nicholas Jackson, every single one of you that goes to our short section and you watch all that content, thank you so much. Really, really, I do appreciate you. For those that do recommend the channel to your peers and friends, I do appreciate you a great deal. We're building towards our journey to 2,000 subscribers. So once you're new here, please help us reach that milestone by subscribing to the channel. I can see we have Suraya Akhtar. Hi, how are you doing? I'm good, my brother. Where are you joining us from? Good morning to you. It's about 60 minutes to the top of the hour. That's to 10 a.m. and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. For those of you that are wondering, our friends from Kenya, thank you so much. Team UK, Team India, USA, people from Canada, thank you so much for the love and support. People from Nigeria, I do appreciate you a great deal. I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Uganda is a country, Kampala is a capital city. For those of you that are wondering, do me the absolute favor this morning, like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel and help your boy to 2,000 subscribers. Beast in code, is that how you pronounce the name? A beast in code. Hi, how are you doing? Football Tribe is a football updates channel where we get to talk about the Premier League and beyond. We bring you the latest updates from the world of transfers, the latest news, analysis, and commentary in regards to your favorite teams from that side. This code says yes. Okay. Wonderful. Guys, please, just like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you need here. So this morning, our conversation will kickstart we'll be discussing about Arsenal's pursuit for Viktor Gyokeres. I know this has been going on for last Sunday. That's when we got the news that they had reached an agreement in principle over the transfer fee worth 63.5 million euros as guaranteed fees plus 10 unexpected add-ons. But we are yet to reach the total agreement where the player is given a green light to undergo his medicals and things of that nature. Are we close to that? That's the belief. That's the expectation as of this morning. And for some reason, I don't know if you followed the trend, there's a way, particularly with the deal for Viktor Gyokeres, there's a way Arsenal have been making progress on more weekends as opposed to during the course of weekdays. But we know for a fact that the players' agents and Sporting Lisbon's representatives have spent the entire week in the UK trying to negotiate with their Arsenal counterparts to iron out the details of this transfer deal. Majority of every nitty-gritty detail has since been agreed, but the sticking point at the moment is around The two is around 2.5 million euros in how should that be paid in regards to what expectations ought to be made or what deliverables ought to be made for the player or by the player before Arsenal get to pay that. Apate needs to be locked the fuck up. That is Sean Chan. Sean Chan, if that's your view, I'm not going to disagree with you. I will respect your opinion. But what I will say is that do not forget the principle of innocent until proven guilty. The player will be turning up in court. That's on the Tuesday, 5th August. So let the law take its course at this stage before we draw to any conclusions. That will be my humble opinion on that. But like I said, so the deal with Arsenal and Thomas Partey is that, sorry, you see, now you even threw me off. The deal with Arsenal and Viktor Gyokeres is that, one, we have transfer fees agreed. I think the best structure of how that money is going to be paid, that's been agreed. The player and the club have already agreed terms on a 5-year contract. That's already in principle. Then expected add-ons are worth 10 million euros, which is essentially about 8-point-something million pounds. Now, it is those add-ons that have been a sticking point over the course of the week that the two parties have been negotiating on. And like I said, a good chunk, at least 7.5 of the 10 million euros has sort of been agreed upon in principle. Now, there is another 2.5 million euros that they are trying to haggle over. Hi, Hilary Ngala from Rongai in Kenya. Good to have you back on the channel. It's a pleasure to have you. I do have somebody, but unfortunately, their language is unknown to me. I don't know if it's in Russian or Chechen or I do not know. But whoever you are, thank you so much for joining this morning broadcast. Kindly consider subscribing to the channel, but also like the broadcast as well. Thank you so much, guys, for the love and support. So that 2.5 million euros, like I told you guys yesterday, and I think probably the day before, is that how Sporting Lisbon want this structured is that those achievable add-ons to be easily achievable. And the best example I can give you is, for example, if let's say you bought a business from somebody, and let's say that business is worth let's say $1 million. We'll use dollars as the universal currency, even though we have our friends here that use the shilling and things of that nature. So we'll use that. But then in that agreement, you're trying to agree with the selling person who is trying to make a case to say that if the business survives its first 6 months under your control, then you will pay me another $100,000. And then if it eclipses a year, is still in business, then you pay me another $100,000, which takes the total bill to $1.2 million. So essentially, the 1 million wouldn't be contentious. You would simply iron out on how that is paid. If it is in installments, how those installments come, and in what frequency or in what scope of period of time, and that kind of thing. So in the Viktor Gyokeres deal with Arsenal and Sporting Lisbon, all that has been agreed. And part of the expected add-ons have been agreed on. That's to the tune of 7.5 million euros. But there is another 2.5 million euros that they are still bickering about. And like I told you guys yesterday, Sporting Lisbon have been trying to make this as difficult as possible for Arsenal in terms of the negotiations, because it wasn't long after their president was sort of just stamping in a way. Prudence sufficient. Arsenal is not a serious team. That's his submission. Good to have you, Prudence, on the channel. Are you an Arsenal fan? What team do you pay allegiance to? Please let us know again in the comment section. And also, do let us know where you're joining us from this morning. So, and I'll speak to that in just a bit. Actually, let me speak to that. For most fans, in the pursuance of this deal, it has felt that way, that maybe Arsenal are not serious. That because fans are sort of feeling that Arsenal have dragged their feet on what would have been simple matters. You remember we came from a point where Arsenal didn't want to pay an extra 5 million euros. That was holding back an agreement on a transfer fee. So we came from that point, and now we are at a point where that fee was eventually agreed. But what did it take? It took the players' representatives to say they will forego their commission, which is usually 10% out of this deal. So it would have been around 5.5 million euros. And essentially, it was reported that they forewent a huge chunk of that to see that an agreement was reached between Sporting and Arsenal. I can see we have somebody. Do you speak English? English can't be understand what you're saying. Sorry. That is Neas Nugas. Nugas. Hi, Nugas. I'm speaking English. I do not know if there's any different kind of English that you're referring to. Dylan Ash, thank you so much for being back with us. Dylan Ash has become one of our usual suspects on the channel. Thank you so much, my brother. So now, because for a common fan like you or like I, we tend to feel that for a club that is that rich, like Arsenal, 5 million euros should be literally pocket change, you know. But also, the club may not look at the money as a whole, that it is being too much, but also they have so many factors to think about. Remember, we are talking about a transfer window where they are trying to spread their wings so wide to bring in as many players to fill the void in different gaps. We all know that Arsenal struggled with squad depth last season. Every time they suffered an injury here or there, we saw there were mechanical fixes. For example, they lost Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus, and the mechanical fix was Mikel Merino playing as the false nine. Bukayo Saka was injured and for about 3 months, and then they had to push Ethan Nwaneri to the right wing sometimes. And we saw that, okay, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But we all know that Ethan Nwaneri is a central attacking midfielder. Then we remember they had sometimes to rely on Raheem Sterling, who was unreliable himself in terms of delivery. So there were so many gaps in terms of the squad. When it came to that midfield, of course, you remember when Thomas Partey was injured and then, was suspended for that return leg against, for the first leg against PSG in the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League, having conceded a yellow card at the Santiago Bernabeu, and Jorginho was injured at the time. He had suffered, I think, a chest injury or a rib injury during one of the Premier League games. I think it had been against Brentford. So then they had to pull Declan Rice from his number 8 and try and tinker that midfield. So essentially, Arsenal oftentimes found themselves short of numbers. Julian Timber, for so many weeks, played through injury. And until that point, at the tail end of the season, when the club decided to sanction a surgery, let him go for his minor surgery and, try and sort that thing out. So, because the reason as why he continued to play with that injury, even by the way, for the PSG return leg in the semi-finals, he did not train for 2 days. He did not train for 2 days. He trained for the last couple of hours and, on he went. He was playing through injury because Ben White was equally just returning from a knee injury. And, it was going to be a huge risk, putting him in those games with that high intensity to play over 90 minutes, Please help us tell Arteta and Andrea Bata to finalize the deal. We are tired of waiting already. That's Chukwebuka Obialo. Hi, Chukwebuka Obialo. Why are you joining us from this morning? But thank you so much for your feedback and comment this morning. I do not take lightly your contribution to this morning's debate. So basically, Arsenal are trying to spread their wings and bring in as many players as they can. As we speak, 4 players have been confirmed, and then we know accidentally in their unveiling or announcing of the non-Madueke deal, they accidentally uploaded a photo of Christian Mosquera undergoing his duties. We know he's already completed his medicals, everything is done and dusted. We are simply waiting for an announcement. So that will be the 5th signing of the summer for Arsenal. After Kepa Arrizabalaga, Christian Nogard, and Martin Zubimendi. So, and then they are trying to wrap up a deal for Viktor Gyokeres. But remember, they also would love to bring in a left winger and another attacking midfielder. Initial reports did appoint fingers to Ebelechi Eze and Rodrigo Goes, although a deal for Rodrigo Goes is increasingly looking difficult at this stage. So But let's wait and see. Arsenal also hold interest in Xavi Simons. So because they have all that to think about in mind in regards to a total financial outlay, that's why the 5 million euros that many of us would think should be cheap and very affordable for Arsenal becomes a bit of an issue. That's for starters. Then two, remember Arsenal were working on a principle that the players' representatives had told them that the player had an agreement in principle or a gentleman's agreement that would let him out of Sporting Lisbon for a total of 70 million euros, and which was 60 million euros as guaranteed fees plus 10 million euros in expected add-ons. Now, a Sporting Lisbon president, Francesco Velandas, changed his stance on that, and he went on to demand up to 80 million euros. So Arsenal were like, we are willing to move, a couple of steps and meet you halfway. But please also come forward and meet us halfway. That was the kind of situation. So that's why in Arsenal's bid, or what was the final bid, and they were willing to pay up to 75 million euros in total. But then the guaranteed fees was going to be around 60 million euros, and then the other 15 were to be the expected add-ons. And yet, Sporting were being insisted that it had to be 70 million euros guaranteed. And you can see that it took, once the players' representatives chose to, forego part of their commission, Sporting Lisbon equally moved. And that's how we arrived to the 63.5. Hi, Charisima Charles. Hi, good morning. That sounds like a Ugandan name. Charisima Charles. Good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. Josh, hi Josh. Hi bro, how are you doing? Good to have you back. LFC, Liverpool fan, thank you so much. Good to have you back. As always, kindly like the broadcast. But thank you so much for being with us this morning. So that's the that is the historical context of the deal in itself. So Arsenal did not want to be the ones to cave. They did not want to be quick to cave, because you see, when you're trying to negotiate for so many deals in the market and you're caving so quickly on certain demands from certain clubs, then whichever other club that you may approach, they're going to force your hand in the same direction. Remember, for example, a player like Ebeleche Eze, who has a 60 million pound release clause and 8 million pounds in expected add-ons. Arsenal do appreciate the player. They would want to sign him, but they would not want to pay the entire 60 million pounds. In other words, they do not want to activate the release clause. They would want to approach Crystal Palace with an offer that allows them to pay a lesser fee than the release clause. So they are hoping for that negotiation. And if you're hoping for that kind of negotiation, then you cannot be caving at Sporting Lisbon to say, okay, let me just pay whatever your demands are, and then I walk away, I get my player, and hope that you'll go to Crystal Palace and then not to pay what their demands are, and then have to negotiate for that, because Crystal Palace will simply say, look, you've just paid what they believe was worth of their player at Sporting Lisbon, simply pay what we believe is worth for Ebeleche Eze, or else you leave, because it's not like they are desperate to sell Ebeleche Eze. In any case, the player is not trying to force a move away from Crystal Palace and that kind of thing. And remember, they have European football this time around. They have the UEFA Conference League. Yes, initially it was the UEFA Europa League, but due to that demotion, they've been shifted down to the Conference League, and Nottingham Forest have been elevated to the UEFA Europa League. That's a concept I did explain yesterday. Charles says, yes, I'm a Ugandan and Arsenal supporter. Thanks for the update, sir. Thank you so much, Charles, for joining us. And I do hope you do subscribe to the channel. We do this every single day, every morning and evening. Late night, and sometimes during the course of the day for our live broadcasts, where we'll bring you the latest news, especially regarding transfers. So basically, when you look at it, and I'm trying to answer, Obialo's question or comment saying that we should tell Mikel Arteta and Andrea Bata to wrap this deal up. So, and given everything that happened within the media, the player has gone on strike. He refused to return back to training. He's still in Sweden, based on, according to reports from Portugal. Then we saw the other day him shifting apparently his property out of his home in Portugal and things of that nature. So, first of all, Sporting Lisbon as an institution, in a way, sort of feel violated or disrespected. And in that statement, that was last weekend by the Sporting CP president, was that one, they were not going to take, that they were not going to be forced to have their hand forced, that if anybody wanted to sign, Viktor Gyokeres, they had to pay what his market value is. And what was that market value? That's based on what Sporting want, 70 million euros plus 10 million euros in expected add-ons. Then two, that they had the upper hand, that the player still had 3 years left with his current contract, and that they were willing to wait it out. And also that he will simply be fined, and then also have to apologize to the group before he's reintegrated back in. Now, that is easier said than done. The finding of the player is an easy one because he has a running contract. So if he refuses to play, then he is in breach of that very contract. But all that notwithstanding, every time you back on that kind of situation, it was never going to help Sporting Lisbon, especially in the evaluation of a player. Because it's like you saying you have a car that you're selling at 20 million shillings. But then you have somebody willing to pay you 18.5 million shillings, and you say, I'd rather keep my car and not sell it now, and yet 1 year down the road or 2 years down the road, you know that the value of that same car is going to go significantly down, that it would have gone from your valuation of 20 million to probably 15. So meaning at that point, you may not even get the 18.5 that you're getting at this stage. So basically, if Sporting Lisbon make the decision that, look, he still has 3 years, we will send him to the reserves and train from there, you're simply taking down his value, because then he's not playing, or even if you bring him to play, he's not going to be a happy character or a popular member within the dressing room and things of that nature. So, and every time he's not playing and not scoring goals, that means his value goes down. So basically, that's where usually when players express desire to leave a club, they sort of have the upper hand, not in the negotiations of the deal, but even you as the club owning the player at that opportune time, is you do not want an unhappy member in your squad. So basically, but essentially, as a whole, that's where we are at with that deal. And the expectation, like I said, is that that deal should be wrapped up possibly during the course of this weekend. And we did get that news confirmed by not confirmed, but at least supported. That school of thought supported by Ben Jacobs, who said Arsenal now close to a full agreement with Sporting for Viktor Gyokeres. Hope is for breakthrough over the weekend, with a small portion of the add-ons still under discussion and Gyokeres waiting for permission to undergo medical. You remember now the small portion of those add-ons is the 2.5 million euros that we've been talking about. So over the course of the negotiations, because of the whole over prevailing situation, Sporting have wanted these add-ons to be easily achievable, because usually some achievable add-ons are usually exaggerated or overly ambitious. For example, you do remember when Anthony Martial joined Man United from Monaco, a part of the expected add-on was that if the player reached 25 goals, and he was able to reach that, I think, in 2 seasons, and Man United paid that money to AS Monaco. But also, there was also a clause that if the player won the Ballon d'Or at one point, Monaco would get more money in add-ons. So sometimes those are clauses, but we all know that winning the Ballon d'Or is not as easy as scoring 25 goals, for a player's career. So now what Sporting CP have been trying to do in this case is that put simple conditions. For example, if Viktor Gyokeres makes 10 appearances in the UEFA Champions League, they want to be paid 2.5 million euros. If he plays 20 Premier League games, they want to, be paid another 2.5 million euros, according to speculation. And please, it's not gospel truth, but that's what we've been hearing. From people privy to, to a certain level of the conversations. And yet Arsenal are trying to say, look, if we win the Premier League title, then we will pay you this much. If we win the UEFA Champions League, then we will pay you this much in add-ons. So there's a lack of confidence here, or an over-exaggeration and an oversimplification of what should be paid in what and on what achievable add-ons. So when it comes usually to add-ons, they're never guaranteed. They are based own certain achievements. For some, they're usually very easy. I also take you back to, you remember when Arsenal were trying to compete with, were trying to sign Mukalo Modric in 2023, January, and then Chelsea eventually won the battle to win. First of all, Arsenal were not willing to go beyond the threshold of 95 million euros. Then Chelsea came in with a total of 100. But also, the payment terms in regards to what was guaranteed fees and how easily the add-ons would be achieved, Chelsea came in with a totally better offer. So Shakhtar Donetsk went with Chelsea, and even though the player wanted to move to Arsenal, they managed to convince him to go to, the other part of London. So it's usually, I do not want to say it's a sensitive topic, but some clubs can be really, really hard negotiators. We've seen that in the case of Brentford during their negotiations with Manchester United for Brian Mbeumo. They've been really, really tough and hard negotiators. They stuck to their guns. They say the player is valued at £70 million. You either pay that or you walk away. And Manchester United made two bids. The initial one worth £55 million, 45 in expected fees, and 10 in add-ons. Then that was turned down. They went back in with £55 million guaranteed fees plus £7.2 million in expected add-ons. That was equally turned down. Until yesterday, when they made a bid worth £70 million, 65 guaranteed fees, and 5 in expected add-ons, that deal was eventually agreed upon to, with an additional £1 million in expected add-ons. So the deal rises up to £71 million. So sometimes you have those kinds of hard negotiators who are really, really not going to get it down easily. So in this case, that's what is caused the delay in Arsenal wrapping up this deal. They are dealing with the stubborn Sporting Lisbon side, who the player is already furious with. The club also in Sporting Lisbon feel that the agents or the players' representatives have tried to so much engineer this move in a way and things of that nature. But be rest assured that the expectation is that this deal will be wrapped up. Unfortunately, it may not be wrapped up on time for the player to travel with the rest of the squad for their Asian tour. Because remember, Arsenal do fly out to Singapore today, this morning in the UK. When I say this morning, because it's around 9 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. in the UK, they will be playing a friendly game against Watford at London Colony. That's their training ground. After that game, then later in the afternoon or / evening, they will be flying out to Singapore for their Asian tour, during which they will play 2 games in Singapore against AC Milan, that I think will come on July 23rd. And then on July 27th, they will play against Newcastle in the same country. Then after that, they will fly out to Hong Kong and play Tottenham Hotspur on July 31st before they return home in the UK to play against Villarreal and Athletic Bilbao in the Emirates Cup. So that's going to be sort of their journey. And so the deal may not be wrapped up. It's not going to be wrapped up for the player to travel with the rest of the squad, because once he's given the green light, he has to travel from Sweden to the UK, then undergo his medicals. Usually there are 2 parts of the medical. There's that, it's called what? The cardiac, a part of the medical, etc., and then, have the player sign his contract, go through the media duties. Probably, if they can wrap it up, maybe by Tuesday, he could fly out and meet the rest of the team in Singapore. But let's wait and see how that situation will develop. But according to Ben Jacobs, Arsenal are really, really close. And like I've informed you, it's just the 2.5 million euros that they are still failing to agree on. And hopefully, they'll reach that agreement really, really soon rather than later. So I think that wraps up every update that you would have loved to hear about Arsenal, about the Viktor Gyokeres deal, and all the other transfer pursuits and expectations, how things will go. I told you about how they accidentally put up a photo for Christian Mosquera, that one 21-year-old Spanish defender is joining from Valencia in a deal worth a total of 18 million euros. So then let's go away to Manchester United, because as of this morning, Brian Mbeumo will be undergoing his medicals during the course of the weekend to wrap up that move from Brentford to Manchester United. Manchester United do want the player to be part of their traveling contingent to the United States for their USA tour, and they do fly out, I think, on Tuesday. Today, they are in action at 4 p.m. East African time when they play against Leeds United. That's a Premier League outfit. And like I keep reminding you guys, Man United have 4 fixtures lined up against Premier League opponents. That's Leeds United, AFC Bournemouth, Everton, and I think West Ham United. Those are the teams that they will be playing. And I think that is going to be a very, very good test, particularly for Ruben Amorim, to see how he's going to fare against Premier League opponents, because next season, Man United's concentration is going to be in the Premier League. They have no European football, and it is upon that very basis that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has told Ruben Amorim he's going to have a narrower squad, and they need to trim down that squad. However, they've not been so far so successful beyond the obvious departures whose contracts had run out, and one of whom has since retired from the sport. So, Brian Mbeumo will be undergoing his medicals as a new Manchester United player during the course of the weekend, before an announcement is made. So do not expect to see him in a Manchester United chat against Leeds United today. Do not expect that. That comes a little too early. But the contract has already been agreed upon. That's in terms of personal terms. It is until June 2030, with an option to extend for a further year. So that means, in principle, it's a 5-year contract with an option to extend it for a further year. That's the expectation. I do not know where the final fee lies in terms of wages, but initial reports had indicated that it will be anywhere around 195,000 grand per week to up to 250k per week. So around those ranges. So congratulations, Manchester United. You do get your second player, your primary target, second primary target in this transfer window after Matthias Cunha. Brian Mbeumo is in. Remember, Diego Leon joined. That deal had been agreed in January, around the same time when Patrick Dogu joined Man United. Then also, Man United will now turn their attentions to signing a striker. But like I said, while they want to bring in a striker, they need to trim that squad. Now that Man United have brought in 2 number 10s, Matthias Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, even though Brian Mbeumo can also play as a striker or as a 9, it begs the question, do they still have room for Joshua Zirkzee? Remember, they only signed Joshua Zirkzee last summer. So there's a lot of questions for Manchester United to answer in this respect. Excuse me. So, anyways, so for Manchester United, they're pursuing a goalkeeper. They would want to sign a goalkeeper, but if they are to sign a goalkeeper, they have to move on one of their goalkeepers. Tom Heaton recently signed a 1-year contract extension as their 3rd choice goalkeeper. Then Altay Buendia, I do not know if they are willing to listen to offers, but they were willing to listen to offers for Andre Onana. Now, the challenge is Andre Onana suffered a hamstring injury that will see him miss the start of the season. So he's going to be out for approximately 6 to 8 weeks. That's in essence 1.5 months to 2 months, which is not a very, very good news. If you're a Manchester United side and you're trying to move this goalkeeper on to see if you can get in a better body. Now, among the goalkeepers they've been linked with the potential move for is Andre Lunin from Real Madrid, Castanetti at Atlanta, Emi Martinez of Aston Villa, but mainly a goalkeeper they've been following since back in January is Royal Antwerp's Senne Lemans. Senne Lamens is that goalkeeper they've been trying to pursue since January. So let's wait and see if they will be able to find, a way to land one of those goalkeepers. Then in that defense, already Johnny Evans has left that squad. He did retire and was given a role at Manchester United as the head of loans and things of that nature. Now it means they still have Harry Maguire, Lenny Yoro, Matthias De Ligt. They do have what's his name? Matthias De Ligt, Lenny Yoro, Lisandro Martinez, and Harry Maguire. That's 4 centre backs. Then, in addition, I get to add on Aiden Heaven, who they signed from Arsenal in January, but that one is a youngster. So do not be surprised if they were to move on at least one of the center backs. Either you remember, then also Mazarui sometimes plays in that back three, but they do want to move on Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw is expected to leave the club this summer unless something else happens. But he's one of those players that they do want to move on. At right back, remember they do have Diego Jota also as well. So, Patrick Dogu, Diego Leon. So they're going to have to, lose at least one or two defenders, at least by the end of the transfer window. Then that midfield, for me, I feel it needs an extra body in the form of a number 8. But presently, they have Casemiro, Manuel Ugarte, of course, Bruno Fernandes, Kobe Maino. There's another youngster whose name eludes me. But you have Mason Mount in there. And then we know about the unwanted 5 in Marcus Rashford, Armando Garnacho, Anthony Tyler Malacia, and who is the fifth? Jordan Sancho, all those. They want to move all those 5 players. So let's wait and see how the market will play out for them. But so far, they've not been very, very successful in moving on players. Looks like Jason Aito and everybody else involved in the action for Manchester United transfers still has a lot or plenty to do, of work to do, especially when it comes to trimming down that squad. It is a squad they want to trim down. And yet, at the same time, it's one they want to bluster by bringing in some, fresh bodies, some new players that are capable of, taking this Manchester United side to the next level. Remember, previously, the manager, Ruben Amorim, said this is the worst team that Manchester United have had, this is the worst team. Excuse me. He said this is the worst team that Man United have had in history. And away from that, they are, what's his name? Sir Jim Ratcliffe went on to say that they have a very, very poor squad. Now, that, of course, boils down to the recruitment department and things of that nature. But they've not been able to move on what they may consider deadwood in the squad. They've not been able to move on players who they believe essentially either shouldn't be part of that squad. So until they are able to do that, we can only wait and see. But they have multiple interests in as far as the transfer window is concerned. Let's just wait and see how things will transpire in the next couple of days for Manchester United. But do expect a lot of action leading to the end of this month and into August, because the season does start midway August. Then quickly, let's go through the latest from the gossip and rumor mill in regards to transfers. And here is the latest. Galatasaray have apparently made an offer worth 3 million euros. That's 2.6 million pounds for Manchester City and Brazilian goalkeeper Ederson Moraes. Now, I do not know with certainty, but I do not think Man City will be letting go of Ederson Moraes on just a cheap. Napoli were one of the clubs that were interested in signing Ederson Moraes, but they pulled out of that deal because they believed it was going to be too costly for them. And remember, Manchester City are considering moving on one of their goalkeepers in either Stefan Ortega or Ederson Moraes. Now, Stefan Ortega, I think, just renewed his contract about a year ago or so. They want to move on one of their goalkeepers if they had to resign back James Trafford from Burnley. James Trafford left Manchester City and joined Burnley, and they do have a buyback clause worth 40 million pounds. Now, they would want to exercise that buyback clause amid this interest from Newcastle for the same player, only 22 years of age, and he's a very, very good goalkeeper, by the way. So, Manchester City are considering, buying him back. Then Netherlands and RB Leipzig midfielder Xavi Simons, 22, favors a move to the Premier League with both Chelsea and Arsenal monitoring his situation. Now, yesterday I told you about Xavi Simons. He's a player that does attract interest from to teams like Chelsea and Arsenal, but it is a deal that may be a little too expensive because he only joined permanently to RB Leipzig. That's in January. He initially had been on loan for the for the first season, that was 2023-2024, and then for the first half of the 2024-2025 season, he was on loan from PSG, and he also had a stint in with PSV Eindhoven, and that is in the Dutch Eredivisie. So he's a player that clubs are monitoring, although a deal for him could be a bit too expensive. Let's just wait and see how it will all, fall in the next couple of days. Then Colombia and Liverpool winger Luis Diaz has told the club that he wants to join Bayern Munich. Liverpool rejected an approach last week, and that bid was worth 67.5 million euros that Liverpool rejected for Luis Diaz. A visit company already approved that he would love Luis Diaz as part of his squad as a replacement for Leroy Sané, who has since left to join Galatasaray on a 3-year contract. Then Barcelona, AC Milan, Al Hilal, and Al Nassr are all apparently interested in Liverpool's, forward. That's Darwin Núñez, according to Cold Offside. Now, Darwin Núñez, Napoli wanted him as their primary target, but were priced out of a deal for the 26-year-old Uruguayan international, and now it is being reported that all those teams. I know there's interest for him from the Saudi Pro League clubs, but none of this has, firmed up that interest to even make an offer to Liverpool. We do not know with absolute certainty whether the player would be open to going to the Saudi Pro League, but he was open to joining Napoli. Then Juventus are considering the swap deal for Manchester United and Denmark striker Rasmus Højlund in exchange for 27-year-old Brazil midfielder. That's according to Total Sport. This is one rumor we've had one too many times, but Juventus has 3 strikers on their roster. Rando Kolomwani, you do have Jonathan David, you still have Dusan Vlahovic, even though you're trying to move on Dusan Vlahovic, but let's just wait and see. But yeah, Juventus and Inter Milan do hold interest in Rasmus Højlund. Then also, Jose Mourinho is interested in signing Manchester United and England forward Marcus Rashford to Fenerbahce. That's according to T24 in Turkish. But like I keep saying, take those rumors out of Turkey with a grain of salt. Meanwhile, Sunderland have agreed a 17.5 million fee with Sassuolo 26-year-old French winger Ahmad Laurenti, according to Sky Sports. Ahmad Laurenti, only 25 years of age. While England's attacking midfielder Ethan Nwaneri did sign a 5-year contract with Arsenal. That's according to the Telegraph. Then Arsenal have appeared to Arsenal. And no, we discussed that. Let's skip that. Tottenham have made an inquiry for 22-year-old Bournemouth and Ukrainian defender Ilai Zabani. That's according to TalkSport. Remember, PSG are among the leading, candidates to sign the 22-year-old Ukrainian defender Ilya Zabani from Bournemouth, although they are yet to meet the asking price for Bournemouth, which is around £59 million for Zabani. Ipswich Town are expecting an improved offer from Brentford for 21-year-old England forward Omari Hudson. That's according to Sky Sports. While Brentford are interested in Celtic and Japanese striker Diazeni Maeda. Diazeni Maeda, 27, given their home forward Yuan Wissa has been linked to the potential move to Newcastle and Tottenham. That's according to Team Talk. While Norwich are close to selling USA striker Josh Sargent, 25, to Wolfsburg for £21 million. Then Nigerian striker Viktor Osimhen's move to Galatasaray is edging close and closer to being finalized after they accepted some of Napoli's conditions for the €75 million deal to happen. So, and among those conditions is that Galatasaray are not allowed to sell Viktor Osimhen to any Italian club for at least 2 years. So, meaning they cannot sign him this summer and then the next summer they are selling him to an Italian club. They cannot do that until he eclipses 2 years with Galatasaray. They can sell him elsewhere. Then also they wanted to have a sell-on clause, a future sell-on clause on Viktor Osimhen. But let's wait and see how that will, happen. But that's the latest from the rumor mill, the transfer speculation and gossip as of the latest. Then also, Liverpool are confident that they will reach a total agreement for they reached a total agreement for the transfer of Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. Remember, they are trying to land a striker, and they will be looking to move on Darwin Nunes. Okay, so let's wait and see. But Liverpool are still very, very active in the transfer window. They are trying to make things happen. They are in discussions with Eintracht Frankfurt for the 23-year-old French forward. They've already agreed to personal terms in principle on a 6-year contract. If you're hearing any feedback noise, I hope not, or background noise, there's somebody mowing their compound in the immediate neighborhood, and that sound may sort of affect our delivery, and it's going to cause us to wrap this one up much earlier than we had hoped. But anyways, for those of you that had doubts about the signing of Noni Madueke at Arsenal, apparently Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice gave the player glowing recommendations when they were speaking to Mikel Arteta about the player. So maybe, just maybe, the Arsenal fan base is more welcome to the player than you had all hoped. So Man City have already made contact with Burnley over signing back, the goalkeeper, James Trafford, like I've told you. But looks like Newcastle may miss out on yet another of their primary targets in this transfer window, because they missed out on a good deal of those. And among them was João Pedro, Liam Delap, Hugo Ekitike, now James Trafford. I mean, things are really, really not happening for Newcastle as they would have hoped for them. Then Benfica are also weighing up a mission in Brazil for Richard Rios deal. Remember, AS Roma among the teams that are trying to, sign Richard Rios from Palmeiras there. So let's wait and see how that will transpire in the next couple of days. Then Thomas Frank was speaking to the media yesterday, and he did say he wants his team to be pragmatic, to be relentless, to be very attacking. Then also Manchester United are interested in signing Pavis Estupinan from Brighton and Hove Albion, although AC Milan are equally interested in signing the player, and the player is open to the move to the Italian Serie A. But Man United have yet to make an offer. AC Milan hope to get the deal done for under 20 million euros. So Pavis Estupinan could be on the move. One of the best fullbacks you'll watch when they are fully fit. So, but let's wait and see on that as well. Then Ivan Ferguson, keep a close eye on that one. He will be soon leaving Brighton and Hove Albion, and AC Roma could be his next destination as they look to wrap up that deal in the coming couple of days. Otherwise, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. Thank you so much for being with us here this morning. Thank you so much, Chalisima Charles, LFC. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Obialo. Thank you so much, Dylan Asha, Prudence Sufficient. Thank you so much. Nugas, thank you so much. Sean Chan, thank you so much. Best in Code, thank you so much. Akita, thank you so much for having been with us during the course of this podcast this morning. It's been a pleasure doing this with you. For those of you that are interested in learning some digital skills like web design, coding, and cybersecurity, please do not hesitate or forget to check out our friends at EboState. I'll leave their link down in the description so that you can check them out. You do qualify for a 5% discount should you enroll with them for those trainings. And they do offer both in-person and online training sessions, and they do help their trainees find jobs in the dynamic digital world after their training. Otherwise, thank you so much for being part of today morning's broadcast. I hope to see you guys in the very near future. We will get to talk about Man United and Leeds. But let's wait and see how that also will come about. But we do expect that game to be played today. at 4 p.m. East African time between Manchester United and Leeds. We'll be looking forward to see how Manchester United do set up in that game for as far as things are concerned. Let me see if there's something we can have on Manchester United here briefly. So let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see. But that game will be coming later today at 4 p.m. Otherwise, it's been 50 minutes into the broadcast. Have yourselves a blessed weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.